Welcome back to the county seat. Our topic today is indigent defense, and joining us for this conversation is John Mejia, who's the legal director of the ACLU of Utah. Thank you, John, for joining us. Emily Chang, who is an associate professor at the S.J. Quinney School of Law at the University of Utah. Got that right. And David Brickey, who is the Summit County attorney. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
I guess where I want to start with in this conversation is in the public defender system, what's broken in your perspective? What's broken?
Well, you know, we've issued a report called Failing Gideon, and it sort of outlines what we feel are the deficiencies in Utah's public defender system. We feel like the system is underfunded and sort of lacks some of the oversight and checks and balances that we think a good public defender system would need.
Do you see the problem as being every county has a problem with it, or just some of them?
I would say no. I mean, and I know you asked initially about rural counties. I think the problems are particularly hard for rural counties to deal with because, you know, if you live in Salt Lake County or in Utah County, there's a population base, there's a big tax base, you know, you have enough cases to keep a public defender office going. Or if you're lucky enough to be in Summit County, you have David looking out for you, even though he's the county attorney, right? But the problem for the rural counties is you have very small population, their budgets are smaller, it's harder for them to manage, and they're not getting any guidance from the state. They're not getting any help, any assistance. It's like an unfunded mandate, and it's just that much harder to meet if you are a rural county with limited resources.
There are a lot of Summit County attorneys out there. There are 28 other county attorneys. And to say that David Brickey is the only one that's getting it right is just not fair to those other county attorneys. They do an excellent job making sure that their defendants are getting represented by individuals within their community who know law enforcement, know those courts, and are providing a service. It is a mandate that the legislature is given to each county to fund. And I saw your comments earlier. I think we can anticipate as counties, based on prior history, about what the numbers are historically and be able to fund those public defenders in a way that does provide Gideon-type services and expectations are met. So to identify just rural Utah, it's easy to do because here on the Wasatch Front, it's perfect, but the reality is that the rural county attorneys are getting the job done, and more importantly, those public defenders are as well.
What I'm looking at is that we have a problem, a financial problem, one, that how do you fund this in a smaller county where the resources are strapped? You take a Daggett County, a Piute County, Wayne County, they all struggle with this. But in addition to that, because they're rurally populated, also the availability of attorneys that are competent enough to do this kind of work also becomes an issue. So what kind of solutions do you think you can look at?
Well, we've been looking at, as a group of county attorneys, to have a mandated, common, generally accepted and reviewed by both members of the ACLU, and I'm encourage Professor Chang to look at our, your opportunity to look at our contract and verify it's meeting the expectations even in a rural community, that the CLE is being paid for, not by the attorney, but by a larger entity, the county, that they have access to investigators. That model contract, I think, will assure, I don't know if it'll ever meet expectation for ACLU, but the community of which the defendants reside in, they know that they're going to get an attorney who's educated, who has the background and experience to defend them in a courtroom.
Why would that not meet your satisfaction, John?
Well, I'd have to see it first. I mean, I can't say whether it does or doesn't. And, you know, we appreciate the counties being willing to, you know, work to meet these what we see as flaws. And we'll be more than happy to work with them to help address those flaws. A model contract sounds, you know, like it would be a step in the right direction.
Would that address the issue of setting standards of competency for the person working under contract for the county? Would that contract address those issues?
Depends on the contract. I mean, there are model contracts out there, for example, put together by the National Legal Aid and Defender Association. You can build in a lot of requirements into a contract. For example, you can require, as David mentioned, continuing legal education. trainings every year, access to experts, investigators. You can require, minimum, maximum caseloads. For example, you can require that there be a conflict of interest checking system, which I think is very important.
Critical.
Particularly where, part of the issue, I think, in some of the smaller counties, regardless of who the county attorney is or, what anyone's doing, is the caseloads are so small that the public defenders, they basically have to take private cases because there's too few cases for them to only have public clients. So they're taking private cases, they're maybe doing mental health cases, they're doing cases in other counties, and then there's no one kind of keeping track of what all are they doing, right? And so you need to make sure that their conflicts are being checked, that if they live in a county that's 100 miles away from the county they're contracted for, that they're actually getting out to that county, mileage is paid for, that visits, jail visits are sometimes mandated by certain contractual provisions, that you have to visit with the client on X, Y, and Z occasions. So there are certainly ways that you can structure a contract to make the system work better in counties that aren't large enough to support a full-time public defender office.
And I think Professor Chang's dead on. I don't think you're going to find 29 county attorneys saying that's unreasonable. Getting it implemented and getting the funding there is always going to be a challenge, particularly in small counties, as you pointed out.
That's the thing. These contracts, they cost money. All of these provisions cost money, right? Who's going to pay for the required training, the experts, the investigators, all of that stuff?
And as we pointed out, it is not a very sexy subject to talk about indigent defense. Just
After all, they're guilty, right? If that's the case. But the reality is there's not a single prosecutor who wants to try a case twice or even 3 times. We want to do it right the first time, and having adequately prepared defense counsel is critical to having that occur. If we have to have, because of one reason or another, defense counsel is not prepared, not educated, and then it's returned to us because of an appeal, no county attorney, no citizen, no community likes to have murder trials twice.
Yeah, or you deal with the exoneration process.
Absolutely.
Or lots and lots of continuances, which I'm sure drive your lawyers up the wall.
Oh, and the judges.
Yeah.
The courts
And
are
your
limited in
costs.
time, and costs go up.
Yeah. So when public defenders come up in Summit County, does that fall to your office?
It does not. There's a selection process in Summit County that I think is similar in other counties. It's done by someone other than our office. County attorneys have no business selecting the person they're going to be opposed to. Generally, weekly, we want, though, the best defense attorney to go up against.
We will pick that topic up when we return on the county seat. We'll be back in just a minute. We'll continue our discussion of indigent defense.
At the Prehistoric Museum, USU Eastern, there's no time like the past. Interpretive exhibits tell a tale of long ago. Observation labs allow visitors to witness the processes of preparation and curation and speak one-on-one with the preparators. Dinosaurs, Ice Age, and archaeology allow you to experience life 500 million years in the making. What happens in Utah's Castle Country stays with you.
Let's be honest, you don't know much about Beaver County. Well, let me tell you about it. It's the birthplace of outlaw Butch Cassidy and inventor Philo T. Farnsworth. Some of the best skiing in Utah is at Eagle Point. You've got camping, Canyon Breeze Golf Course, Crusher and the Tushers, Beaver Territorial Courthouse, snowmobiling, renewable energy, Pioneer Car Show, Squeaky Cheese, ghost towns to explore, best water in the country, Paiute ATV trails, Old Frisco kilns, horse racing, hunting, fishing, and it's a good place to live. Beaver County, mountains of fun. I could tell you more, but why don't you come and see it for yourself?
Almost 45% of the oil produced in Utah, 7.8 million barrels, comes from Duchesne County. That oil feeds our state economy, provides job growth, and supports local business. Here in Duchesne County, we're working to make Utah an economic, cultural, and technological leader. Whether you're here for business or pleasure, Duchesne County will welcome you with open arms and invite you to explore all the beauty of the Uinta Mountains. Duchesne County, close enough for business, far enough to get away.
If you look up epic in the dictionary, it's defined as heroic, majestic, or impressively great. Here in Kane County, Utah, we don't need a dictionary to tell us that. We live it every day. Stop reading about life and start experiencing it in Kane County. ATV adventures, Jeep excursions, hike a world where the Old West was yesterday and tomorrow is just over the horizon. Kane County, Utah, where epic is more than just a word, it's our way of life.